Hey everybody, what's up? Today we're going to talk about the Adobe Creative Cloud suite and why I use it, why you maybe shouldn't use it. A little background on me, I've been using the Adobe Creative Cloud since it became a thing. Before that, there were different versions of the different apps that came out. Started on Premiere in high school, and then ever since, that's been my go-to tool to create videos and art. So over the years, I've been kind of what I would call a gearhead. I would research all of the new cameras when they came out, all the new software, all of the new techniques when they came out, which there's really good things about that. A good example of this might be keeping up with LED lights as they become more of a thing. So if you're anything like me and how I have been in the past, always being super excited about the next new camera or light to come out is a good thing, and I think that you should hold on to that. But what is my current philosophy of gear and technology that I've come to believe in and go about my work with? Well, I think that gear and technology are tools to help you translate your ideas into the reality that you want to create. Here's what I mean. I see the Adobe Creative Cloud apps as tools that allow me to take my ideas, which aren't constrained by budget, logistics, even tech, and translate them into things that other people can find accessible and view and interact with. I want my ideas for my clients or my ideas for myself to become things that are tangible. And I use the Adobe apps and my camera gear and lights to do that. And so I think that that's the proper place to put things like the Adobe Creative Cloud apps in my toolbox, as it were, so that it stays in that place. And it's just a tool that I use for the greater purpose of translating the form of my ideas into the reality that you can interact with. So how far does technology need to go then? How do we keep it in our toolbox and not be the thing that is driving us to create in the first place, as opposed to our ideas being the thing that drive us to create? Right now, for me, my most valuable thing is my time, because time I spend creating is time that I could spend doing other things, like spending time with my family, for instance, which is very important. So the main reason that I keep the Adobe Creative Cloud apps in my toolbox is because of time. I have what I would call depth in those apps. I've spent a lot of time building up depth so that I know how to use them optimally, learning more every day, of course, but I can sit down and not have trouble translating my ideas into the tangible media that I create. Now, this is why I don't use other nonlinear editors like DaVinci Resolve, for instance, which is great. It's even free, but I don't use it because it would hinder me from efficiently using my time to create the art that I do. And I can't afford that right now. Don't know if I ever will be able to. So the best time to make changes to this toolbox is when you have time to invest to get depth in your tools. Of course, that's my opinion, but that's what I've found keeps me on track the most. And thankfully, even though we can complain all day, every day about how Adobe is in a subscription model, cost isn't an issue for me right now with my business. It's a cost of doing business, and that's how it goes. Now, if that ends up being a barrier to you, like say time and money are something that's important to you to keep unaffected, then you might want to consider spending some time to get depth in a program like DaVinci Resolve so that you can create that way, because there's also no added cost for the base version. Or buy a Blackmagic camera and then you get free, basically, the full version with it. So that's something to think about. All right, so what are some of the downsides of using this philosophy of gear and technology that I go with personally? Well, I assume the necessary risks of building a lot of depth with certain tools. For instance, I have so much depth in the Adobe apps, and that's why I use them. Adobe is, I guess you could say, not always the most reliable, because it's kind of like a pro and con thing. They update their apps a lot, but on the other hand, when they update their apps, they come with problems sometimes. Or you might be in the middle of a project, and if you accidentally update, which I've done before, you will lose accessibility to some of the things you were doing in an older version of their software, and the newer version just makes things hard for you. It's always a good idea to wait until you finish with all your projects to update. And this is kind of idiosyncratic to the Adobe ecosystem, because other programs, nonlinear editors don't change as much as Adobe does. So that's one of the downsides. So for me, as long as Adobe doesn't interfere with my time too much in making me create more depth, I will continue to use their apps. And I think that they're great tools, which is why I love them so much and talk about them all the time and give Adobe free advertising. So all that to say, when should you change your tools? Well, I think you should change your tools when you have the time to invest in them to get the depth that you need to narrow that gap, that translation gap between your ideas and the art that you create. It's great to always keep learning. That's what I'm all about. So there's my thoughts, everyone. So if you like the video, give it a like. If you want to hear more, subscribe so you'll keep coming back and you won't miss anything as I go on this YouTube journey with all of you. See ya.